Hey, good morning everybody. Today I'm going to show you how I make chili chickpeas quesadillas. Yeah, say that fast 5 times. Now, this is really simple to make. I've just got some plain tortillas, a couple of 19-ounce cans. How much is that in mils? 540 mils of canned chickpeas. Some of my own chili powder that I made in another video because I like mine. And some cheese. Now, I'm not using all of this cheese, but I visually estimate how much I slice, so for curiosity I'm going to weigh it today so I got something to put in the recipe. Rinse the chickpeas in cold water so they don't froth. I know from practice how much it takes to make each one, which is this much, so I'm going to just cut off this much and we're going to weigh it and see what we get. Okay, so I got the piece here. And 88 grams, so let's just call it 90 grams, which is 3 ounces of cheese. Nice and simple for one quesadilla. So just grate that and set that aside for now. I do these one at a time. You can, get all your stuff prepped first. And if you're using pre-grated cheese, just do it in multiples of 90 grams. Next thing you want to do is mash the chickpeas. Now, I know somebody's probably thinking, yeah, why don't you just use cans of refried beans? And yes, you could. But you can't control the fat content, you can't control what kind of beans it is, and you can't control the flavor. So I'm using chickpeas. You can use any, I'm using chickpeas because I like chickpeas. You can use any kind of beans that will mash for this. Once those are mashed to your liking, we can move over to the stove. Now, I really like doing these by hand, and it's not just because I like that. If you do these in a blender, you're going to have to add liquid or the motor will burn out, all right? And you don't have to do that when you do it by hand. So you get much nicer consistency, and the tortillas fry. They don't get soggy, so it is worth the time. Set a non-stick pan on low, and then get your spice. You want to dry roast these just for a little bit first to improve the flavor. Now, I'm using my own mix. You can use prepared, okay? And also the amount used is going to vary depending on taste. I find that 2 teaspoons works pretty good for this, unless you know your audience, and if they're highly adventurous spice people, put more or less if they don't like it. So what you're going to do is just dry roast this till you can smell the spices. Will take a couple of minutes. Don't turn it up to high, they'll just burn and you'll have to start again. When you can smell the spices, turn it up to medium and add your oil. I'm using 2 tablespoons of oil. Now I may add more after. We'll take a look at what it looks like depending on how dry it is. And again, this will vary depending on what kind of chickpeas you're using. I'm using canned today. You can use dried, pre-soaked. You have different options. And just get that oil, get the spices into the oil. Once that's smelling nice, start adding your chickpeas. Yeah, chickpeas are great for this. You can see it just mops up the pan. Basically, you nearly have a clean pan to start the next stage. I do wipe it out with a paper towel, but not more than that's necessary. I don't wash it or anything. The worst going to happen is you're going to get the flavor of the spices into the top of the tortilla. Oh my. You can turn that down a nudge and just get that all mellowed in for a bit. The end point you're looking for is that all the spices are mixed in and you've got a nice even mass that's spreadable. Now you can see how that's breaking up into clumps pretty easy. So you got to remember the next step is spreading this in your tortilla, so this isn't really going to work, so I'm going to add 1 more tablespoon of oil. Now you can see just that 1 tablespoon of oil changed the texture of the mixture. It's much more spreadable, which is really what you want, without being too greasy. And again, this is to taste, so whatever you want to do. So back to the scientific part. I know about how much this takes, so I'll just scoop some out. It takes this much visually, or 150 grams. Set your pan over low heat and pop in one of the tortillas. Now, I find it spreads better if you break it out into little bits over the surface. kind of like if you're making an omelet and putting in the filling, then trying to put one big glob and just try to spread it around. Yeah, if you use the spoon and the spatula, it's a lot easier to control it and spread it out quicker. Because what your tortilla is doing is cooking while you're spreading this out to minimize cooking time. Once you're happy with that, get your cheese. So get your cheese and start sprinkling it over the top. I think it's a nice little bean pizza here. Of course, if you want to add stuff, go ahead. I'm just doing this as simple as possible today. Watch the surface carefully. When it starts to develop bubbles and the cheese is nearly melted, put your other one on top. Kind of mash it in to make sure it's welded. Yeah, don't burn yourself. To the other one, got a spatula, and then turn it over. The second side cooks much faster than the first, and here's a visual cue for you. You noticed when I put it in that the bottom one was much larger. They shrink as they cook, so when they're basically the same size, take it out. You want to get this on the cutting board, but do let it cool off before you try to cut it, or the cheese and beans will ooze everywhere, because you can see at the corner here it's still sizzling. If you're serving this as lunch, okay, what you do is you can wait till it's too sort of hot to touch, but you're not going to burn yourself, okay? Because you're going to miss the crunch if you don't do this. Isn't that lovely? Okay, so first thing, quarters. If you're going for that whole Christmas party canapé thing, you want to slice it up in smaller bits. There you have it. That's how I make chili chickpea quesadillas. Do give this a shot. It's really easy to make and it's good. And subscribe.